Is it a fire hazard? Maybe a little bit. Does Sean approve? I think a little bit. He loves fire hazards. Yeah, I f***ed up. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Can you turn that off? Somebody's gonna get a whooping. Come on!
It's just like Chase's car.
Welcome back to Next Level Rides. In today's installment, we're continuing rebuild of my Mazda RX-7. And again, this is the JDM FC3S imported from Japan, so it's right-hand drive and all the cool stuff. As we're nearing the end of the actual rebuild or refresh, we're going to begin with installing a bunch of different fluids just to give it the lifeblood that it needs. So it's been a while since I've actually put oil on this thing. Feels weird. So I tend to use this in almost everything. So Pennzoil Euro 5W40. It'll be fine for this. Since we got rid of the oil metering pump and the oil injection, we're gonna have to premix. But at the same token, you can now, without issue, run synthetic. So with RX-7s and most rotary applications, you want to run a heavier weight oil simply because of the fuel dilution. So these end up running rich. Intervals should be pretty short for when you change the oil. When fuel ends up diluting the engine oil, it's going to end up making it thinner. So typically it's not unheard of to change it every 4,000 or 5,000 kilometers. There's about 4 in there. I'm pretty sure it takes 4.5. Shows perfect on here. Of course, the oil cooler is pretty well empty. Yeah, I f***ed up. I filled the engine oil, and what I meant to do was double check the oil cooler grommet since it's leaking a bit. Well, I guess that's a next time problem. So of course, with forgetting to change the actual O-ring or to actually make sure it's snugged up properly and not leaking, I'm going to have a constant leak, but like I said, that's a next time problem. So next we're going to start by bleeding the brakes. Please don't instantly piss out. Well, here dripping or bubbling. It's already self-bleeding itself. Ew, it's in such a shitty spot. To get the hose on top of it, I need to like put it up and through the hub. Okay, so for the first little bit, pretty sure you don't need to do anything. What the hell? It's not even a 10 mil? Oh! Okay, so I should be able to just pump. It's holding vacuum. Do you want to pump the brake a little bit? Oh! Oh, hey!
I'm starting to feel the brake.
Really?
A little bit.
Yep. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get fluid to each corner first, and then properly bleed it. Otherwise, it's counterproductive. And you actually started to feel the brake?
A little bit. Right at the end, you can start to feel it.
Yes, I know what I'm doing. So bleeding the brakes was a bit of a pain. Because I rebuilt each caliper, it was gonna take a little bit of effort to get them to bleed properly. Now, what I started with is the farthest one from the master cylinder. So you start bleeding it so you see a little bit of fluid, and then you go to the second farthest, and then the third, and then the closest. After you do that, and they all start to bleed, you know that there's fresh fluid within those lines. So then you end up going back and you bleed them properly until you see no air bubbles. After that, we move on to actually bleeding the clutch. This was equally a pain, but with a Mighty Vac, which is a handheld vacuum pump, it does end up helping quite a bit. All right, so I've got some gas here. Now, for premix, I'm just gonna be using Lucas semi-synthetic 2-cycle oil. I've used it in a few things. I had some here, but I guess the shelf life's not very long, so I didn't bother using that. May as well get some new stuff. Now, I ended up making 2 of these cups because I don't think people would appreciate if I used household stuff and put 2-cycle oil in it. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open this up and you can see 50 mil, 100, 152. Pretty obvious I'm gonna be using this primarily for the 2-stroke oil. So let's open that. Why does it not smell like anything? Ooh, that's rancid. A little over 100, but that's okay. Bloop, 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 bloop. Good to the last drop. All right, time to go fuel up. Nothing but fumes. So last year I drained the fuel tank. Of course, in my infinite wisdom, it was full when I stored it, which sort of makes sense, I guess. So you don't want the fuel tank to end up having any issues with rust or corrosion. So put a bunch of stabilizer in it, but of course I had to drain it. So fortunately there was, I believe it's a 14 or a 16 mil bolt on the bottom of it, and I drained it pretty easy. Drink up. This is ASMR. Oh, my spout slipped too far in. I think the neighbor heard me. I just got a weird look. Now as for headlights, because these are a sealed beam, I believe it's 4x6, you can't actually change the bulbs out to something modern that'll actually work a lot better than the factory halogen lights. So what I ended up doing is I found some nice 30% brighter Philips bulbs, and I installed those. The driver's side one here that I'm working on, it ended up having what looked like a bullet hole in front of it, with a bunch of cracking, and it just seen better days. And of course they're all faded and hazy. So the new ones are much clearer, and I'm sure they're going to look a lot better and perform equally as well. So of course I wanted to do a side-by-side comparison just to show you exactly how big of a difference it was, and then start moving on to the next one. So what I learned with BMWs is that any wheel imbalance or shake that you may experience through the chassis of the vehicle or through the steering wheel is generally indicative of missing a wheel hub ring. So in this case, what I did is I ended up ordering a set of aluminum hub rings, and because they're from good old China, these ones we needed to tap on with a hammer. So nothing crazy, but they ended up ensuring that the wheel itself sat perfectly flush on the hub. Alright, so you can see we have a bit of a mess here, and there's a lot of broken pieces, and there's stuff missing, gaskets, and there's a mess. So I have a bunch of different shifters here. I need to figure out which one's going to work the best. So this one's originally a Miata short shifter. So along with this, you'll need a specific plate, and with that, a specific washer, and you end up using this little piece right here because there's the shift rod. So if I tried to get this to work, usually that would sit in there, and then you start stacking all the bushings. But I don't really want to do that. So Miata shifter, C's Racing shifter. So this is originally out of an FD. Along with that, we have the S5NA shifter, so which is just straight, or I believe this one's actually bent to one direction, and then this is the original JDM T2 shifter. So you're probably not gonna see on camera, but for the most part, this one's straight and this one has a bit of a curve to it. So when you're shifting, it's pointed a little bit to you. Now I gotta figure out exactly which one I'm gonna use. Now the problem being, I have this bushing here, and this is a soft bushing, but you can see that a bunch of oil has saturated it and it's broken. So the issue that I run into is a lot of these washers here, they're not the same diameter, and these are a hard plastic where this is more of a rubber or a urethane. So I don't have anything that's the exact thickness. Now this would typically go around the bottom of the ball here, and I'm not sure exactly which one I need. So I have the hard black plastic one here, and it's a tiny bit thicker than the other one here. And along the back here, you can see there's a little wave spring washer. So I do have some spares. I have the one with the teeth that ends up going onto one of these bushings, and then I have just a circular spring washer. I think they call them a wave washer. So what I'll do is I'm gonna figure out exactly what combo of pieces I need to make it work. So I'll set the camera up and I'll put it in a bit of a time lapse because I'm going to be playing with a bunch of different ones to see what works. So yeah. So because I decided to throw everything, including the shifter, the spare shifter, and the rest of the other bushings and wave springs and so forth into a box, I didn't know exactly how this was going to go back together. So fortunately I had almost one of each, and it was just a matter of trial and error. So after you get it all cleaned up, you're going to use 75W90 gear oil, or a 10W30 engine oil essentially, to fill the rod assembly where the end of the transmission actually would mate to the shifter itself. So you fill it up just so it ends up touching just the rod shifter portion, and then once it's lubricated, then it's going to be fine once the shifter's actually installed. So the shifter itself, there's a lot of schematics out there, but basically in this case it was wave spring, lower grommet, upper grommet, and upper wave spring. So in this case what I found is to use the lower wave spring, the white round half moon grommet, install the shifter, another half moon white grommet, wave spring on top, and then the 3-bolt plate just to sandwich it all down. Of course, again, trial by error. You'll end up shifting it and seeing how it feels, and if it feels good to you, then eventually it'll loosen up when it's all lubricated. So the one thing I wasn't sure here was with the thermostat. Some have this little jiggle pin that allows any steam that builds up to go up and out of the actual water pump housing, but the new one I got from, I believe, Gates didn't actually have that. So I'm not sure if this is going to be an issue, so when we end up going to bleed the cooling system, I guess we're going to find out either the hard way or by trial and error. So off screen we filled the coolant, and here I'm just topping it up through the water pump housing. We're in the home stretch, so I'm getting a bit nervous after 13 years of this not running, so here's hoping that it goes without a hitch, but you know, it's an RX-7 after all. Dum, da-dum. Da-da-da-da-dum. Okay, what did I forget? Let's disconnect the fan. We don't need that right now. It's got oil, it's got coolant, it's got fuel, it's pre-mixed, transmission fluid, shifter's built, exposed wiring under the dash, which is fine. Those are capped. All right, I'm gonna crank it to build oil pressure and stuff. Holy, I need to do something with this wiring. That's a tomorrow problem. Okay, see if it cranks. Huh? Could have sworn I tested the starter. Can't think of it. Yeah, it doesn't want to spin it. The motor's... Yeah, stop it.
What do you do in rapid succession?
Struggling to do anything? Yeah. So when I turn the key, the relay is not sending enough voltage.
Yeah.
Like you'd think it'd even go like spin over slowly, you know, like it almost had a dead battery.
It won't do that because the battery's charged and the solenoid is fine. Just for some reason, there's not enough electricity getting to the starter solenoid.
Maybe some water got in there when I pressure washed the engine bay.
In here?
Or in the connector? Like if there's a connector that can come off. All I'm thinking is like corrosion and a little bit of resistance
it
maybe.
Tried to start by now.
Yeah, because I mean realistically, 11 volts should be enough to turn it over.
Oh yeah, it's enough to turn the motor over, but not enough to fire the solenoid over, you know what I mean? Like the little magnetic part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to essentially pass through the power. So the starter's fine, battery's fine.
Is that a relay over there?
This?
Yeah, what's that one?
MAF sensor, or a map sensor.
Over here should be the one that's 100 amp or 80 amp?
On the strut tower?
Right where Sean is, yeah.
On his left elbow?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the 100 amp. Huh? Why is it wedged in there? That's kind of weird. All the other ones come out. That one's stuck in there.
Maybe it's welded itself to it.
You think?
Could be.
Like
or
when
maybe it's corrosion. Can you push it in at all? Like.
Yep.
Jesus.
Look at that.
Cut?
Of course.
Good one. Nice. I bet it's corroded. You could do a tiny pry, but I don't want to damage the plastic.
Let me try and be gentle to it. Here, I'll put that back in. That might, like I thought something was a bit weird because when I would turn it on, like the dash lights kind of wouldn't come on, and I should probably unplug that. What if I start f***ing with that? Who said
the plastic moves, but the little connectors that it's
attached to don't move.
Like the fuse is so old, it's just crumbling. Like you could kind of feel it under the flathead.
Yeah, try and like wiggle those a little bit somehow.
These?
Yeah, like twist them side to side.
Yeah, it's already crumbling.
Oh yeah. I think it's just the left side. Look at that. The back side looks like it moves.
Yeah, the right side's moving. The left side's not moving.
You try and wiggle at the same time.
Okay. It's loosening up. Yeah. Oh, is it? Is it? What is the f***? Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, bud.
Oh man. Oh, that's so heat damaged though, and corroded.
It's f***ed. Is it literally welded?
Or is it bolt in? There's no way. There's no way it's bolted in.
Is there bolts there?
There's no way.
It would be a first. I would have never seen that before. Can't get those bolts out.
Is it normal to have that much corrosion on it?
Well, I don't think any corrosion is right. Try and turn the bottom one now. See if it does anything. No. Oh, we should have done that a long time ago.
Put that on there somewhere. This is the ground?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I didn't need to do any of that.
Might just have to tuck it back. Good thing is, there's a cover.
On this episode of Fire Hazards, we'll just pretend it never happened. I guess we'll see if it cranks.
Yeah.
Huh?
It had to be messing around with the fuse box.
So that 100 amp, there's probably enough corrosion that we must have broke away.
That's my theory.
So when you turn the headlights on, does the gauge cluster light up?
Oh, gangster. I haven't seen that yet.
I guess we got to
Hey, it's beeping now.
Yeah.
It didn't do that before.
It sounds like a 90s
And
computer.
these weren't lit up before too. So it must have been something with the main.
Oh,
Scratch my window.
Oh, the switch stuck down.
Well, fix the wipers.
The wiper switch. That drives me nuts too. Nothing worse than dry wiping.
So it was that main fuse.
It had to be.
Okay, so turn the headlights off.
Look how much dirt!
Whatever, I know. So we're fairly certain when we manhandled and mangled the 100 amp that is now strategically wrapped in Alabama repair tape.
Professional grade corrosion resistance.
It's 3M. It's fine. You didn't see that. It has a cover. Sean's right. You don't see it out of sight, out of mind. So don't crank it. Just turn the ignition on. And I'm gonna look to see if the LED's on the bottom of the, what's it called? Yeah, the MSD. Because then it's probably just a ground. Okay. It went on then off. What is this? Okay, shut it off. There's a random wire here that it fell and I didn't see it. I don't know what it's for. It was ground. It's a ground. Sean was really hoping I would sell it to him cheap.
Be a great LS swap computer.
Oh, you're one of those. Can you turn that off? Somebody's gonna get a whooping. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna crank it because now for some reason it wants to work. No idea why. Is it a fire hazard? Maybe a little bit. Does Sean approve? I think a little bit. He loves fire hazards. Crank it, I guess. You don't need to hold the clutch.
Right?
No clutch. Crank again. Okay. So typically 3 sets of 8, same with kind of a beamer. Okay, shut it off. Oh, I'm getting nervous now. Ready? Come on!
It's just like Jace's car. Just go.
put a cap on that vacuum part. Fuck, this is nerve-wracking. It's so weird.
Smells like the go-kart.
Nope. You can kind of hear the port.
Oh yeah, does it need more TCS?
It's fine when it's warm.
Oh yeah, because you don't have an idle motor, right?
Do you hear any exhaust leak or anything up there?
There's none. I checked underneath.
Really?
To me, it just sounds like typical
Stainless.
manifold sounds. You know what I mean?
Celebrating too early. Is it still leaking?
Yeah. That one. Looks good to me.
Huh?
The plug looks good. Yeah. I see what you mean though, that's a puddle.
Yep. Here, hold on. Everybody wants to see his spoolie boy. Is it spooling?
Oh yeah.
It's spooling. I love that it has that bullet nose.
Oh yeah, the HDS style, huh?
No exhaust coming out of the rad. That's good.
It's still high. It's not another grip.
Did you?
Yeah. Just a tiny. This is a race car.
Well, I'm gonna shut it off and give it a.
Cycle.
Yeah, that was nerve-wracking. So we're gonna leave it there for now. We're gonna vacuum a little bit of the water out just to see if there's any coolant leaks, snug that up, put a cap on it, get it running better, and we'll be back. So till next time, feel free to like and subscribe. Dingle the jingling thing. This is Sean. Okay, bye. I feel like a funnel would help us here because I don't feel. Oh God.
No sense of adventure.
Fine, sense of adventure. Give you sense of adventure.
Life is an adventure.
It's not a towel. It's a towel. It's not a manual. It's a manuel. It's not a Tony. It's just Tony.
What the
What the fuck you mean? What the fuck, man? I don't know.